Welcome to Get Your Mind Right. Today, we're diving into your questions and insights in our mailbag segment. Thanks to everyone who wrote in. Let's open up the mailbag.
Good morning. John Johnson here, and welcome to Get Your Mind Right Mailbag Edition. Now, today's episode is about fear versus structure. This is fear of losing deals, fear of complexity, fear of saying the wrong time in front of a merchant. Now, in today's backstory, this is a personal one. It's about me. I'm going to take you back to my first job out of college when I was the lowest form of life. I sold copiers, and my boss put me through a very painful exercise that included me getting fired and then getting eaten by a fire-breathing dragon. Okay, spoiler alert, the dragon obviously never showed up. Let's get into it. Our first mailbag today is from Bree Miracle from Newburgh, Indiana. Bree says, John, how do you pick yourself up after losing a deal, especially one where you invested serious time and energy into? Ooh, Bree, that's a bad question. It's a tough question here. Now, I want to start here by getting aligned with you. First of all, I don't want to hear about you picking yourself up. What I want to hear is about you auditing yourself. Because, Bree, you've fallen into a trap here that a lot of reps do, and that is they try to emotionally recover. You know, they go to the gym, they listen to a podcast, they tell themselves the next one. Now, that's therapy. It's not growth. Here's my perspective. A lost deal is tuition. Now, Bree, if you spent 20 hours on it and that deal just cost you 20 hours, that's a tax. The only way you lose twice is if you don't extract the lesson from the loss. So, Bree, I want you to run a 3-question autopsy here. Where did the control shift? Was it price? Was it timing? A competitor relationship? Did I lose leverage early? The next thing, I want you to ask yourself, did I quantify the problem deeply enough? Like, for example, if the merchant didn't feel there was a financial tension, they really weren't motivated to move. The last thing I want you to ask yourself is, did you mistake engagement for commitment? You know, just because someone responds quickly doesn't mean that they're ready to change. Bree, here's a very uncomfortable truth. Most long, painful deal losses were lost weeks earlier. The problem is, we just didn't know it yet. Now, emotionally, this is a stinger because we attach our sense of self and our very identity to the outcome. Now, professionally, the good news is this fix is pretty simple. We want to shorten sales cycles. We want to create decision timelines earlier. We want to lock the next steps in writing. And we always want to know the leverage point. Here's your reframe. If you're not losing deals, Bree, you're not playing at the right level because loss builds pattern recognition. The reps who get dangerous aren't the ones who avoid losses. They're the ones who compress learning cycles. You don't recover, you refine. Bree, this is all about you because it is full throttle growth. That is your defining characteristic. I want you to pay attention to that, and I want you to absorb this. That's how you earn it. Thanks for that question, Bree. My next one's from Dawson Dimmitt from Boonville, Indiana. I always like Dawson. He is not afraid to ask the hard questions. So Dawson says, John, if you're starting in payments today as a brand new rep, what would you focus on? Well, that's a great question, Dawson. We have a lot of newbie sales folks that listen to this podcast. So this one's for them. So first thing, Dawson, out of the chute, I'm not going to focus on selling. I'm going to focus on decoding. So let's talk about what that looks like. You know, payments, Dawson, you know this. They look simple on the surface. You got a swipe, you got a fee, you got a deposit. Now, underneath all that, however, it's financial architecture. Now, if I were brand new, I'd obsess over 3 things. First thing, I am going to master these statements because, Dawson, if you can't explain effective rate, interchange categories, card mix, and fee behavior under growth, you're just regurgitating numbers. Study 50 statements, break them down manually, reverse engineer them. Because once you understand these statements, you stop sounding like a rep and you start sounding like an advisor. Next thing, Dawson, this is so important and so few reps do this. Learn margin math. Because merchants, they don't think in processing percentages. They think in terms of business issues like payroll, rent, inventory. This means you want to translate everything into dollars per month, dollars per quarter, dollars per year. If you can say to them, hey, Bob, that's $18,400 annually back in your margin. All of a sudden, you've got Bob's attention and you're controlling the conversation. Next thing, Dawson, is build controlled attention. And this is a mistake that new reps make a lot. They want to be friendly, which is okay, but they're overly friendly. Now, what dangerous reps do, however, they introduce clarity. Instead of saying, hey, can I give you a quote on this? A dangerous rep's going to say, if your card volume increases 15% next year, do you know what that does to your effective rate? That's one question, one single question I just asked. Now I'm not pitching anymore, I'm diagnosing. Now, if I started over today, I'd ignore all the gimmicks. No chasing logos, no trying to win on personality. I'd become the person who understands how money moves, because in payments, the rep who understands the flow controls the outcome. Dawson, that's the charge mentality. Decode first, sell second. Last question today comes from my friend Sheila Wyatt from Atlanta, Georgia. And this is her myth number 3 she is exploding for 2026. And this myth is surcharging and dual pricing are the same thing. Boy, do we hear that one. Well, hopefully we all know that they are absolutely not the same thing, and confusing them is expensive. Let me give you a clean breakdown. Surcharging. You're adding a fee to credit card transactions only. We're excluding debt. These are the card brands. There are caps. There are compliance steps. It is explicit. Pay with credit, there's a fee. Now for dual pricing, you display a cash price and a card price. Card price reflects built-in processing cost. No line item fee. No add-on at the register. It is structural. This is the price with the card. This is the price with cash. Psychology here is different. Surcharging can feel like a penalty, while dual pricing feels more like a choice. Now here's where people get sloppy. They say, well, it's basically the same thing. Customer pays a fee. Nope. From a compliance standpoint, branding standpoint, and customer perception standpoint, they operate quite differently. Now, from the merchant standpoint, surcharging is reactive, where dual pricing is strategic. Surcharging recovers cost, while dual pricing restructures pricing. Here's the big idea here. The goal is not to pass a fee. By the way, that is a poison phrase. If you want to kill your deal, use the phrase pass the fee. The goal here is to protect margin without damaging the customer experience, because when implemented correctly, dual pricing often creates less friction and more long-term stability. Now, when implemented poorly, either one can backfire. So no, they are definitely not the same thing. One adjusts behavior at the point of sale, and the other redesigns the pricing model. It's a big difference. Sheila, thanks once again for standing on your myth business. Clarity beats confusion every time. And now, for the backstory. Welcome to the backstory, where I take a step back before we move forward. Each week, I share moments that shape me, whether it's my time as a sales rep, my journey as a dad, experiences I had, stories I've learned, or the curiosity that's followed me since childhood. Because every lesson learned today, well, there's usually a story worth telling behind it. Let's get into it. Today's backstory is titled Death by Copiers and Dragons. Let me explain. My first job out of college was selling copiers, okay? I was 22 years old and knew about as close to zero as one could possibly know. I knew almost nothing about business, and in those days, prospecting meant pulling door handles, lots of them, walking in cold without any training. Every day, I felt like I was trying to jumpstart a dead battery. As a result, I came down with a bad case of what is known as call reluctance. And my boss saw it. He pulled me aside one day and we went to a local Hardee's restaurant. And he said, when you go on your first call today, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I said, well, I guess I get thrown out. He said, write it down. I did. So we kept going. What else? Well, they yell at you. Okay, write it down. They curse you out. Write it down. Okay, well, how often is this going to happen? Well, I don't know. Well, what would be a really bad day? Well, it happens on every call. Oh, okay. Write it down, he said. He goes, hey, this goes on long enough. What's going to happen? And I said, well, you're going to fire me. He goes, you're right. Write that down. He goes, so yeah, I figured we're done now, surely, right? Oh, no, we're not done. He said, a lot worse can happen than that. I go, well, what do you mean? I'm fired. You're done with me. He goes, no. He goes, I could just happen to know everyone that you're ever going to apply to a job for again, and I could blackball you from employment forever. Okay, well, that seems unlikely. No. He said, I could do that. As a matter of fact, I might do it. Write that down. So I thought, okay, now this is over. We weren't even close. Okay. We got down to where, I brought shame to my family. My family stopped talking to me. I lost my home forever. My friends all disavowed me. And I was a lone hermit living out the desert for the rest of my miserable existence. And right before a natural death, a giant fire-breathing dragon swoops down from the sky, scorches me to a crisp, and then eats me. Now, by the time we were done, I had 2 pages, front and back, filled, including, of course, being eaten by that fire-breathing dragon. Now, what he told me to do was to read that list every morning. And if I did that, that would tell me what a truly bad day would look like. Now, the point here is what you think is going to happen isn't real. He told me that. He said, this is all in your head. This is you telling yourself that you're going to fail. He was right. None of it happened. No dragon, no blackballing, no career-ending catastrophe. Now, here's why this matters to us today. Bree, you lose some of these deals, there's no doubt about it. They hurt. It can feel even catastrophic. But most of the time, that dragon, it all lives up here. It's imaginary. Dawson, payments look overwhelming sometimes when you don't understand it. But once you decode it, that monster, that fire-breathing dragon, he shrinks. And Sheila, surcharging versus dual pricing sounds complex until you break it down and you realize it's structure versus structure. Because fear, it expands in vagueness. It shrinks in clarity. So next time you lose a deal, or you stare at a statement, or step into a pricing conversation that feels tense, I want you to ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen? Write it down. And you're going to find that most of your dragons are nothing more than smoke. Get your mind right. Today's takeaways: lost deals are tuition. Audit, don't recover. The next thing is master the math before you start working on your pitch. My friend Sheila reminds us that surcharging and dual pricing are structurally different categories. And the last thing that's so important is that fear that you have that's so pervasive and is eating you alive, it fades away once you define it. Quick quiz. After losing a deal, first move should be A, motivational content, B, emotional reset, C, structured audit, or D, blame the prospect. Hey, I want to hear an answer from you. Drop it down in the box below. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, share it with someone who you think can use it. And for you, I want you to like it and smash that subscribe button. If you got questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the box below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you back here on Wednesday for Get Your Mind Right.